Good evening, fifth year scholars and friends. It's great to see you guys again. I hope you're enjoying the composite area work as much as I do. Working with visuals and critical thinking around how to break up shapes and find area is really just one of the coolest things I think we can do with math. So I do want to give a couple shout outs today from our Zoom class in DePaul. If you feel like you're doing great work in your Zoom class with your teachers, tell them to let me know and I'll get you some shout outs too if you're in BU, URI, or Springfield in the next YouTube video. But today, participation shout-outs go to Flora, Donia Lise, Deasia, Jonthany, Justice. They were just on fire today, quickly trying to answer every question to see if they could learn from their mistakes or find out the best way to solve each problem. Also, a huge shout out to Daniel and Jariel, who both got 100% on the first exit ticket of the week, right on time and getting it done. And we're going to go ahead today, getting started on this lesson before we even have launched it. So great job to all of you guys. Can't wait to see you guys again on Thursday at 12:30. But we're going to take things up a notch today a little bit with our composite shapes. We're going to make things look different. All the other shapes we saw last week were all the same kind of L shape with the same kind of information, or last class. Today we're going to make different kinds of shapes and use different kinds of operations to find out how to solve them. So go to your Google Classroom, pull up the composite area day 2 lesson for today, and open up to the problem solving task, and let's get started. All right, here we go. I'm in Google Docs now. I've got my problem solving task loaded. And today I'm going to show you how you can, if you don't have paper or you don't feel like copying down these problems, how you can work with them on Google Docs using their drawing tools. It's a little weird. For my Zoom class I showed you a bit today, but you can kind of pause it, watch it as many times as you need to figure out how to work with these images. Our first problem solving task says the figure below shows a large rectangle with a small rectangle cut out of it. What is the area of the shaded part of the rectangle? So right now you can take some time, try to figure out how to solve this, pause the video, go for it. All right, so now that you've tried to think about it, you've probably figured out what makes this problem a little bit harder. If I am looking at this shape, I'm thinking about breaking it up because I know I need to break up my shape into rectangles. I can't find an area of an irregular shape, but I can find an area of a rectangle. So if I break this up, I break it up into 3 rectangles. A rectangle up here, a line across here makes a rectangle up here, and then a line down here makes a rectangle at the bottom, and there's a rectangle in the middle. But by doing that, you cannot find the area of all the rectangles. There's no way to do that because I would not know what the area of my top rectangle is. What we need to do to solve this kind of question is different, and the operations we use are different as well. We want to know the shaded area. So we can actually imagine a rectangle that you cannot see. So I'm going to show you how to open this image up in a way that you can edit it. And the way you do that is you select the image. This whole thing is one image. And you can right-click or control-click on it and get a menu like this. So right-click or control-click and then click Copy. And if you click out of the picture so it's not selected anymore, click Copy, and you go to Insert, Drawing. So then on the menu at the top of Google Docs, go to Insert, go to Drawing, and go to Add New Drawing. And in the drawing, it's going to be blank. This is going to be like your workspace for the problem. And if I control-click or right-click again, the menu pops up, but now it's different. And this time in the menu, I can click Paste. So I've copied and pasted the image into here. The difference now is I can now draw all over this. I can write all over it however I please. And when I showed you before, the possibility you could do is breaking up like this, drawing a line to make a rectangle, and making another rectangle down here. That's a great strategy, but only if we have more sides labeled. This is not going to tell us the length and width of this rectangle. It's not possible. And we also just know one side of this rectangle because 9 would not be that side. So that strategy is not going to work for us. So I'm going to click Undo to make those go away. And that's I'm just using the line tool here. Instead, what I want you to think of this shape, this blue shape, as a big rectangle with a piece cut out of it. So the blue part is the big rectangle. The white one is the rectangle that's cut out of it. So if we do this, we can now imagine that we have 2 shapes. We have shape A is blue. It's a big blue rectangle. And then we have shape B is a white rectangle. And now all we need to do is find out how much was cut out of A. And just like we did with yesterday's lesson, or Monday's lesson, we need to make our formulas. So let's first look at the area of A is. Area A, I always write the formula out. Area of A is always going to be length times width. Area A, can now put numbers in there. So I know my length of A, this is the length and width, or on the outside, the length is going to be 9 and the width is 6. So it's 9 times 6, and 9 times 6, stop. 9 times 6, sorry about that timer. 9 times 6 is D4. That's my area. So we got to that problem solving task. Hopefully you tried it on your own and you thought about it. But before we go into guided practice, I want to review those rules we went over on Monday's video for solving these kinds of problems, these composite area problems. I'm going to post them up here. You're going to realize they look a little different than before because we saw on our problem solving task, you don't always add. You need to use your common sense and critical thinking skills to figure out when you're adding or subtracting. And oftentimes there's more than one right way to solve the problem. And you need to be okay with that and just be confident that your way is correct and it makes sense based upon some fundamental ideas we're doing here. So the first job you need to do is always to break up the shape and label those parts. I didn't tell you that specifically on Monday, but I saw some students in Zoom not doing that today. So label the parts A and B, or sometimes A, B, and C. And then after you've labeled them, write out the formulas for those shapes separately. Don't do it all, try to do it all at once. If you do it all at once, you're going to get lost or confused. So find the formulas for the different parts and put the numbers in for them. As part of that step, you also need to make sure you figure out what the actual length and width of each rectangle are, because you don't want to get tricked by some of the numbers you're going to see, which are just a long side that you've cut up. You need to make sure you're checking to see if you've cut up a side or if a side is not the full length of a rectangle part either. So make sure the way I check is I trace the outside of each rectangle piece to make sure I find the length, which is the longest side, and the width, which is the shorter side. But to make sure that they're actually the numbers I'm reading are for that full side. After you can do that, you can calculate your areas of the different shapes, and then you either add them up or you subtract them, depending on whether you're taking away from the full area or adding on to the two, or combining the areas. So those are your steps you're going to follow. We're going to quickly go through a few guided practice questions. Do them on your own first, and then check your work with me, and then you'll feel ready to go and confident to try this on your own with the exit taken on edulastic. Let's go, friends. All right, so I'm going to try to really quickly go through these problems, but I'm also going to try to use the skills we talked about from our steps before. And our first one is our guided practice, all the questions are the same type of question. You just need to find the shaded area of the composite shapes below using addition or subtraction of rectangular areas. So our first one here, number 1, it looks like we got a green shaded area and a white part. And I'm going to use the word cut out of it, which kind of gives us a hint already of where we're going with the problem. Again, this is assuming you've already tried to solve these problems so you can check your work with me. So my first job, I remember, is the one I'm going to edit on here so you can see it. Click here, click insert, oh, I didn't copy it first. Click here, right click, copy. Now I click out so it's not selected, go to insert, drawing, new drawing, and I'm going to work in the drawing space here. I would right click again, click paste, and there's my shape. If I want to make it bigger, I can, so it's easier for you to see. Still leave a little room to write my formulas over here. Step 1, if you remember, is to label the parts of the shape. In this case, I have a piece cut out in the middle. I could break this into rectangles on the outside, make a lot of rectangles, but the easiest thing to do is to make 2 parts. My shaded part on the outside, that's going to be A, and then my white part cut out of it is going to be B. So I've got the 2 shapes, and now it's time to write out my formulas. Step 2 is to write out formulas. I'm using the text box feature here. I don't need to draw any lines here because they're already basically set up as rectangles. A is all of this big rectangle, and B is the rectangle inside. So here we go. Area A equals length times width. It's always the same formula, but I always write it out to make sure I've got the parts I need. Area A, I'm going to find the length and the width of A. So to do that, I need to find the outside of A. I'm going to kind of show it with this line tool here, but you don't need to do that. So the outside of A, this whole shaded area, so here's one outside of A, it's not labeled. Here's another outside of A, that's 8 inches. Okay, that's going to be 8. So this side and the opposite side, this side is also 8. Oh, and this one is also 8. So in this case, length and width are the same, so it doesn't really matter what order I do it in. This is 8, that means that's 8. It's actually a square, but make sure you got the outside of the shape before you move on. Go here, go to area A equals 8 times 8 because it's a square, and that is going to be 64. This looks like it's inches, square inches. All right, we got our formula for our first one filled out and our formula for our second one, area of B. Area B equals length times width. Area B equals, and I'm going to B, do the same thing, go on the outside. I've got a 4, I've got nothing, nothing, and another 4. I got length and width are the same again. So area B is a square, it's 4 times 4 equals 16 square inches. So if I need to find the space inside of the shaded area, again, now I need to get my total. This is where we calculate the total with addition or subtraction. Got two parts, the total area. In this case, I have a big area on the outside. I'm taking away the white shaded part, so it's going to have to be subtraction because it's a cutout. It's being taken out of the shape. So total area equals 64. That's the shaded part. If it was all shaded, but it's not, there's a cutout in it. So I have to subtract the 16 that out of the middle. So 64 minus 16, 64 minus 10 would be 54. And then if it's 14 minus 60, but then 54 minus 6 is going to be 48 square inches. And that's my total, that's my answer. Followed all the steps, and I'm done. There's my work. I can save it on here, that way I don't need to do anything else. Or you can just, if you did it on paper, just write your answer on the paper. Number 2, this is where it gets a little more challenging. We've got the picture. Definitely going to want to break this one up and use the computer to help me with that. You can draw it as well, but easier to copy it and paste it as a drawing. So insert drawing, new, oh, did not click the right button. Insert drawing, new. I keep saying I need a mouse and I haven't gotten one yet. Paste my picture. Paste my picture. It's going real well. Let's try that again. Copy. Get out. Insert drawing, new. And paste. Wow. I'm going to close this out and try it again later. All right, I figured it out. Apologize there. This shape was actually made on Google Docs, and that's why it doesn't need to copy and paste. It's not a picture, it's something you can actually edit and work with yourself. So when you double click on it, it says edit. That means you can just go down and draw on it, and I hope that gives you the opportunity to draw it on your shape as well. So here on my new shape, this one is going to be a little different. It doesn't look like anything's cut out of it. So I'm going to try to cut it into rectangles and see if I can get rectangles with the lengths and widths. I'm going to use my line here, my line tool. I'm going to break off this little rectangle at the top on here. I'm going to break off this little one here. Obviously, somebody might want to break things off on the side here too, but you only need to break into these 3 pieces. And so I have 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. That means I need to label A, B, and C for this one. So A, part B, and part C. Apologize, those are not very centered for you. So I've got my different parts labeled. That's my first step. Second step, write out my formulas. So I'm going to do 3 separate sections, 1 for each shape. So shape A, area A equals length times width. And the A is pretty simple because it's got a 3 and a 4 over here. Check around the outside. 3 across, 4 down to that line, and over here that 7 is being split. It's being split by the line, so it's not my width or length. Area A is 3 times 4 equals 12. And there's inches for my units today. I'll put those in at the end. Now let's do B. Trying to keep the pace going so you can be checking your work. You should have solved it already anyways. Area B equals, let's go to B. well, the length times width. Let's find my length and my width of B. So go on the outside of B. Looks like I've got a 3, I've got a 6, and that 6 goes all the way to this line. So it looks like that's the full length, not being cut across and then over. That looks like it's a 6, 2 all the way. So we've got area B equals 3 times 6, and 3 times 6 equals 18. This is cruising right along. It's the same skills we've done. It's now just a bigger shape. And now area C, this is a big shape with a lot of numbers on it, so it's gonna be a little harder. Area C equals length times width. There's a lot of numbers on there, but I only need 2. So let's find out. 2 on the outside. I've got a 7 over here, but that line, that 7 here, if I draw that whole 7, that's from here to here. That's 7. But that 7 is being split because I cut the shape in 2. So that 7 is not important. So up and over, there's a 3 on here, but that's just a part. That's that little line there. That's 3, not the whole length across. And that 1 is that little piece over there. But this 3 is the entire width of the shape, the shorter side of the shape going up and down here. That's 3, and I've got a 10 going all the way across. So for area C, I've got 10 times 3, and that equals 30. Let's put it all together for my final step. Total area equals, again, am I adding or putting apart? In this case, I'm not cutting anything out of it. I'm putting them together, combining the 3. I've got 12 plus 18 plus 30. 12 plus 18, 10 plus 10 is 20, 2 plus 8 is 10 again, so that's 30 plus 30, a total of 60. And the unit we had was inches. It's 60 square inches. That's the hardest stuff you're going to see in today's lesson, I think. Save and close, we'll put that work right on my paper. Look at that, that looks really nice. This next one is the same as we did before, so I'm going to quickly solve it for you before your independent practice. There's some more shapes you'll do on your own. Just going to tell you your answer real quick. I'm not going to walk through all the steps for that one. All right, again, you should have tried to solve this on yourself unknown first before checking your work with me right now, but I just want to make sure you know how it gets done and without taking the whole time to walk you through the same steps again and again. You can see here I broke into A and B. I got my formulas for A over here, my formulas for B over here. The tricky part is recognizing that the 10 over here is not an important measurement for me because I'm cutting that line in half, so it's not a length or width of either shape. A is 4 wide and 7 long. B is 6 long and 5 wide. My areas here for A is 28 square inches, B is 30 square inches, and then the total area is A plus B, 58 square inches. That's it. All right, friends, that's it. We know how to find composite area when we're given all the sides, whether we're adding or subtracting, whether we are breaking into 2 pieces or 3 pieces, maybe even 4 pieces. You're ready for your exit ticket. You can do those guided practice questions and you know the steps that I followed. Go to edulastic, try your best, and see what you can come up with. When we go to Friday, the video is going to be a little longer. It's going to be a little more broken down because we're going to add in some missing sides you're going to have to find using what we call algebraic thinking skills, which makes it that much more interesting for me, but also a little more challenging for you guys. So we're going to spiral it in and work on these kinds of problems within the next few days to make sure you really understand what's happening with them. Hope you guys are all well. Happy Wednesday. See you on Thursday for Zoom classes, and I'm looking forward to my next set of shout outs for you guys. Keep up the great work.